Say what's up, guys. What's up, guys?
Hey, Pat, I'll get us going. Just first of all, welcome back. And, how did this process go down for you, Pat? I know you're kind of working to keep the previous class together. What were conversations like with you and Brett?
I met Coach when he first got here the first day. We had an opportunity to sit down, myself and a few other people together, and we just talked like normal people. Asked about family first, and then just asked backgrounds for everybody in the room. And from there, I think took interest that I had been through a few staff changes already. And so at that point, that evolved into more conversations and more in-depth conversations. And he had just asked me about my time here and some of the good things, some of the bad things. And so from there, we continued to build and develop a relationship. And it's something that we're 5 weeks into the making, and feel like I've known him for years now.
Yeah. And now you're leading the department here, Pat. So what do you think you did to impress him? Did you have like binders of stuff to prepare? What was kind of your pitch to him?
So no matter who was going to be named the head coach, I always, because I've been through it a few times, I always put together just something that I think the next guy needs to know, whether that's with in-state relationships, stuff about academics here, just very baseline information that, somebody that walking in needs to know this so that they can be successful. And so I did put together just a small little packet of info for him. And that way that also helped me if he had more questions, right? So that was kind of the plan too, is if he wanted to follow up on things, it gave me another opportunity to talk with him. So, yep, to answer that, small packet, and we really just started going through that packet one by one.
And I just got one more, Pat. Every head coach brings something unique to the table. What unique perspective or traits does Brett bring as a recruiter, as a head coach?
He's just so personable. I mean, you really get to know who he is by one conversation and the start of it. And so he's just a very fun, lovable guy to be around, and it's infectious, right? So we every time he speaks, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, you sit there and you want to learn, because he has so much knowledge in the way he talks, and he doesn't talk down to anybody. He talks with you, that it's really fun to be around. So that's the main thing I would say is just his personality is huge, and it's great to be around.
Thanks, Pat. Congrats, man.
Thanks.
Hey, Pat. Good to see you again. Oh, can you hear me? I got to make sure I'm on.
I got you.
Okay, so this is the fourth regime for you, correct? That's right, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So when you got here back in, was it 12 or 11 or whenever it was? 12, right?
Yes.
Did you ever think I'll be here the next decade with 4 different coaches? I mean, tell me what your mindset was when you first got here.
No, I got a call in December of 2012 from an assistant at that point on staff, and never would have dreamed that I've been here as long as I have so far, and it's been an honor to honestly be in this community. But Bob, I think anybody that's in the coaching profession knows that you are hired at some point, you will get fired, right? And so that's just the nature of this business. But again, I think hard work, and that's really what's helps me succeed, is just by keeping my head down and being a hard worker. That's what's helped me just survive the last few coaching changes.
And were you worried when they made another change that Hammond had to go move somewhere else? I mean, you think like that or not think like that?
I don't think you can think like that, because then you're just living in fear. Did it cross my mind? Heck yeah. I got 2 kids, Bob, under 2, with a wife who's pregnant with a third one. And when we found out about a third one, we had to upgrade on houses. So I had bought a house in early November when we closed. So that stuff worries you, but at the end of the day, you figure it out and life moves on, and you're either ahead of it or you're behind it. So I don't like to think about the negative stuff. That's all.
Last thing, I know your job is developing what you're going to be doing. How much different is what you're going to be doing now from maybe under Lovey? I mean, is it clear to you what the differences are? Or is it still kind of being defined?
It's still really be defined, but it's tough to compare anybody. With all coaching changes, there's new opportunity and new philosophies from every different staff. And so I know Coach B has a very clear idea of how he wants to run recruiting. And it's something that we've talked and developed a plan. And we just have to work through that. It's going to take some time to put it all together. But we do, Coach has an idea as how he wants to run this recruiting department. And so with him at the helm, I'm able to kind of take it and run with it and bounce ideas off of him. So.
Thanks, Pat.
Hey, Pat, I'm curious if you could give any specifics of some of those changes that might be happening. Like, under Lovey, these were kind of my duties. Now I'm going to have this, and I can put more input into this, or anything like that will be changing, different title, that type of thing. It's
well, Robert, it's going to be not necessarily like a drastic change. You still have day-to-day, operations in terms of how we communicate with prospects, right? How we deliver edits to kids, how we mail kids, things of that nature. That's the same anywhere across the country. It's just a matter of how many people will be in the department. And that's something that we haven't finalized yet. The way with Coach being, his years of experience as a head coach elsewhere, and then with the last 3 years of being in the NFL, he's trying to bring a little bit of that flavor into today's college game, right? And so I think that's going to be the biggest change, Robert, is we'll have basically different branches that are responsible for certain things. And, so we'll have a personnel branch strictly looking at transfers and graduate transfers and high school kids, right? And then we'll have a certain branch that takes those kids and puts them through a communication plan with the help of the creative content side of things too. So it's just making sure that everything runs smoothly. And that will take some time, Robert, because we all have to figure out how we work together as we hire more people, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be one vision from the head coach down. And then we just decipher how we want to attack it. So that's the main difference, I would say.
When you were originally a GA in like 12 and 13 and such, would you have seen yourself on the recruiting side of things in 21, or were your thoughts at the time, I'll do this and then maybe I'll get a tight end coach spot somewhere, and what was your plan and versus how it's played out?
Yeah, I when I got into it, I wanted to coach. I coached at a Division III school after I got done playing, and I wanted to coach. And then when I got here, it was you kind of did a lot. You fell in recruiting, you fell in operations, just odds and end jobs anywhere. And so as I kind of slotted over to the recruiting side of thing, I fell in love with it, right? I fell in love with relationships. I love talking to families. I love talking to parents. I love showing this university off. And so that's, Robert, really kind of in 14, 15, when I was more dedicated to recruiting at that point, is when I said, hey, this is something that I want to get into, because I like watching a kid that developed from a 16-year-old to a 22-year-old senior. And then, he's going on and Nick Allegretti playing in the Super Bowl, right? And so it's those relationships that really have helped me in this profession, because I love relationships and I love communicating with people. So,
last question: are you in the same office? You get an upgrade or anything? What do you get in the Smith Center?
I moved coach closer to the head coach, so I was at the far end, and now I get to be closer. It's just so I'm in and out. I'm bugging him 24/7 now. So.
You got a better window now? Anything good? Any perks?
I can see a little bit more of a window, yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, Pat, I wanted to follow up on that with the relationships. Was there somebody instrumental in your football background that kind of painted the importance of these relationships, that made you fall in love with cultivating them with prospects and watching them develop?
Joey, honestly, it's probably more so from just my family background. I grew up in a large family, and we are all super close. And I don't have nobody in my. I was the only player the only person that played football in my family. So we're all very extremely close. And, I talk to my parents every morning. I talk to my brother every day. I talk to my sisters every day. So I would say that they were the ones that helped me just develop those communication and those relationships. And naturally, I like being around people. I like talking with people. And so I think honestly, just my background of coming from a large family has helped me develop, just being a little bit more personable. And it's been, and then obviously going through sports and being around, all different walks of life. I'm interested in seeing and hearing so many different backgrounds and stories and trying to put my feet, in their shoes. And that's the best thing about it.
And I'm guessing maybe that's why you and Brett connected as well as you have, because he seems very interested in that side of things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you learn more and more every day that you're around him of different stories and his background. And as we get more comfortable, I've asked more questions to him. And so it's that's spot on. I think you're similar in that sense that this is a relationship-based business. And that's how Coach likes to operate. And I think myself as well.
And then I wanted to ask you, in-state, Brett has made that a priority and kind of getting that going again here. He's talked about the 10 regions. Is there any more clarity on how those will be broken up within the coaching staff?
So we actually have finalized that last week. And basically throughout the state, there's over 500 high schools in the state. And tried to divvy it up as much as possible, as equally as possible amongst our staff. And with guys who have recruited the state previously and connections that they have, everybody will have a piece of Illinois, and they have a piece. Now, some guys, your coordinators, that you don't like them to recruit as much outside of the state, so they'll have a little bit bigger chunk, right? Just because they're busy developing game plans and things of that nature. But everybody will have a piece of the state, and we develop just regionally, split it up. I don't want to give away all the secrets because we're going to start making calls here, but we'll have 4 or 5 in the Chicagoland area, and then from there, break it south, central Illinois, southern Illinois.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Pat, obviously you mentioned that originally you wanted to start coaching and then you kind of fell in love with this side of everything. Is it the goal to go back to coaching, or do you kind of like where you're at right now, or do you not know yet?
No, I don't have any interest in going into coaching. Now, you never say never, right? There's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But, I don't have an interest right now because I love the recruiting, the personnel, the operation side of football because there's so much that goes into it. And those guys, they're smart, and they're way smarter than I am in the football side of it. But I love to be able to make it go off the field. And so that's kind of what drives me.
Yeah, and you mentioned just how you love relationships, and obviously it seems like the same thing Bielma loves as well. What do you think it is? Like, is there something you can pinpoint about him or a specific characteristic where he just, reaches this different connection with recruits?
I think you just see how honest and upfront he is when you talk to him, right? And I think you guys have an opportunity to see that when you talk to him as well, when he does media sessions. But he's just very honest, and it's nice because with some people, when you talk to them, you have to sift through some of the BS, and I think that connects really with parents, right? Because kids. We can say anything to kids and they're going to believe it because they're just not as experienced as others. But when coach is talking to parents, they're able to really kind of understand and value that he is honest and he's trustworthy. And so that would be the main thing.
And then just since you've been kind of in this role and going through recruiting for a while now, what do you think, I guess, is different about recruiting now back compared to back when Bielma was at Wisconsin, Arkansas? Is there a big change that you've seen over the last couple of years, and how has he kind of maneuvered through that?
Social media. I mean, that's the main thing. Social media is the biggest change. It's the driving force in anything right now, and really society. And that's instant feedback on social media, whether it's good or bad. And coaches, he's great on social media. He likes to be a part of it. He looks at it every day. He responds to things. So it's not somebody running his Twitter account by that sense. He's actually coming up with tweets and things of that nature. And he has ideas when he sees stuff from other schools that he'll screenshot and send to us. But at the end of the day, it's about communication, right? How well you communicate with kids, and the more you communicate, the better relationships you have. So that's recruiting, I think, at its finest, and it will always be that, is how well you can communicate your vision, communicate your plan, and how well the kids will trust you for that.
Thank you.
Hey, Pat, I had a follow up. I know a lot of oxygen is spent talking about in-state recruiting with Illinois. What do you think is fair to criticize, or what are you guys focused on? Because Brett obviously has made it such a big focus. It's not the only thing that matters, but just what would you say about in-state recruiting and how you guys hope to go about that and improving that?
Jeremy, I think the main thing is communicating, right? Like, we have to stay in constant communication with our high school coaches in state. And it's been, now that we have the areas divvied up, we're going to start attacking it by calling every high school coach in this state, starting really, I'd say probably tomorrow. So you'll see that, I'm sure, on social media, but it's staying up to date, and it's being responsive when guys send players to you, and communicating to them if you like them or you don't like them and why, right? So that you can be honest and upfront with them, so they know what we're looking for in players. And then really, I think as we develop these, as we communicate with these guys, it's staying, like I said, staying in contact with them, and then going to see them in person. And we're not going to be changing areas a bunch. What we have said, this is something that we studied hard. And so these coaches will have their same areas. We're not going to change it up next year, right? So they continue to see that same face coming through that school, or they continue to see that same text message from the same coach every year. And that's something that I think in the past kind of had hurt us a little bit, but we don't want to change anything up, so that these guys can develop the relationships with their area coaches.
And what are the challenges now, Pat, of the transfer portal plus the extra year of eligibility as you guys go about these, recruiting classes the next couple?
Not so much challenges. I mean, right now it's just about balancing numbers, scholarship numbers, right? You get a free pass this year, but being able to get it down to 85 back for fall 2022. That's when it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But it always clears itself up by the time, spring rolls around anyways. So it's projecting right now more than anything of what position needs we'll want, what it says number wise needs. But then to answer your other question, the transfer portal itself it's a beast, right? I mean, I checked it this morning. There's over 3,000 names in that portal. And so you have to stay, it took a long time to get to the point where we are now, I think, where whenever somebody enters the portal, we just add them to our database, and we're able to figure out if he's played, graduate transfer, things of that nature. But on the front end, it took days and weeks to build this database. So now it's just staying up to it.
Thanks, Pat.
Go ahead, John.
Hey, Pat, can you talk a little bit more about those different branches? It seems really, a new thing. Just can you expound on it a little bit of how many guys will be working a portal or working transfers, and vice versa? How many guys are doing something else?
Yeah, I won't. I mean, I can't really give a number right now because we don't have a number set. And like coaches talked about, we're going to take this by a position by position basis, but we will have somebody that is in charge of looking at the portal on a daily basis and breaking that film down on a day-to-day basis, because that's going to be a beast in its own, like I had said. And myself, I obviously will be looking at it as well, but then we're also going to have somebody that will screen high school tape as well. So that is something that I can say that we will have two, dedicated to just evaluating one high school and then one in the in the college side of things. And that's what Coach had gathered. That's kind of his flavor he's put on it from his time in the NFL, because the NFL has obviously, NFL scouts, and then they have college scouts.
Hey, Pat, I got a couple more. Since I've moved once in the last 30 years, I got a question. So you bought a new house, or you're buying a new house?
I bought a new house, so we luckily sold our other one, and we were able to buy a new one. So I've moved. Go ahead.
What town?
I live on the south side. I live in Savoy.
Okay, very good. And give me your wife and kids' names.
My wife is Jessica. She's my high school sweetheart. My daughter Isabella. She's 2.5. My son Gibson, and yes, it was from Gibson City. That's why we did name him that. And then we're expecting a little girl in April.
Got her name yet or not?
I can't say it. My wife would kill me.
Don't do that. And tell me about your college nickname.
My college nickname?
Yes. Is
It's
that
just
real?
No, it's just Pat.
No. Your college. Ohio Wesleyan's nickname.
The Battling Bishops.
Is that real or not?
Oh yeah, it's a mean. You look it up, Bob. It's a mean looking bishop.
I didn't know there were mean bishops, but all right. Thanks, Pat.
Yep.
Hey, Pat, thanks for doing this. As you've been a part of different coaching staffs, when Brett came in and he was setting up this recruiting office and he decided to keep you, did you see anything strategically that he did differently, maybe than the previous coaching staffs have done, that maybe gave you a different outlook or different perspective on how exactly he wanted to do that, or learn something new from that experience?
I think the main thing is just how we are going to attack evaluations and how we're going to attack transfer portal versus high school kids. That's because at the end of the day, like you communicate to kids in a certain way, and being through, 3 other head coaches, every head coach, there's always, like, you always call a kid, you always text a kid, you always write a letter to a kid. And that's still the same. Everybody, all 100+ schools in the country are doing that, right? But how we go about from having a prospect to giving him a certain grade to then how we attack him with communication, it's really more on the front end of what coach has brought in that's been different for me in a good way.
And then follow up to that, as he put this staff together, did you see any characteristics that were similar of these coaches on the staff, or different, that makes you believe that the staff can go out and recruit and hit the trail and hit on kids at a different rate than previous staffs could?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing is he's brought in, because Corey was here, obviously, but he's brought in 9 different coaches from 9 different parts of the country, from, Power 5 schools to Group of 5 schools to academy, right? And so guys who've had a lot of resources versus guys who have had very little resources. But at the end of the day, like, they are all really good communicators. Okay. All of these coaches, they're good-hearted people. We start all of our calls off when we talk to kids about talking about our families, because that's something that means a lot to these guys. And so I think that's the similarity between everybody, is that they're very personable, and you like to have fun. We like to bust each other's chops, so we all get along great right now, right? It's been 5 weeks or so, but the best part about it is that they all communicate great. Whether they like something, they don't like something, they're not afraid to let you know.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it.
Hey, Pat, I had a quick follow-up. You talked in terms of divvying the state up 10 ways. You said that you guys put quite a bit of research. What was the biggest part of that research that helped you to separate everything?
Really, Joey, it's just amount of prospects of in the past of, how many Division I players there are throughout the state, right? And where they're coming from, what area they're mainly coming from. And then how many guys, I guess you could say, how big schools are throughout the state as well, because the bigger the schools are, obviously there's going to be more prospects there. So that was the main focus, as to, how many Division I players have signed within the last 8 years in NLI. And that was the main thing we looked at in terms of how we divided it up.
That sounds both kind of fun to go into like a deep dive like that, but also like a really big bear to start. What was the balance there?
It was difficult, I guess, you didn't know where to start. I didn't know how how many years I should go back, or that was probably the main thing. But I wanted to give a good sample size and able to, Excel nowadays, you can cut stuff out and add stuff in. So figured 8 was a good number. I don't know why I didn't go 10. I could have gone 10, but
it would have been a little more balanced, I think. But you talked about you wanted to go into coaching, but that's a big, like on the field coaching, I should say, that's a big decision to pivot kind of on a dime like that. How did you do that? What was instrumental in letting yourself know, or the other people to let you know that this was an okay path, or this was maybe the right path for you to go down?
Great question. And I guess it's being in the position I'm in, I get to be around all the kids, right? I get to be around running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, and that's the same when they get into the building. Whereas, not saying a position coach is not going to interact with other players, but I'm not meeting with a certain group of players every single day, right? So I can have an opportunity to talk and laugh and have fun with all positions across the team. And so I think that kind of helped balance it out, to be honest, Joey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pat, when you're talking about the different branches of a guy recruiting or evaluating portal as opposed to evaluating high school, is that the way more programs are going, you think? Because like you said, the portal is such a beast, or is this something you guys are doing a little bit differently than other people?
I think we're on the cutting edge of it, John. I think we're probably one of the first few schools to be doing it this way. But eventually, yes, everyone will have somebody dedicated to that, just because there are so many names in that portal, and you're doing a disservice if you don't look at it every day and evaluate those guys.
I don't know about any mean-looking bishops, but I had a mean-looking nun beat my butt one day in school, so I know where you're coming from.
You guys all good?
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks, Pat.
Pat.